Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm Mike Sorg, video and podcast producer with the SAE CDS series. And right now we're going a little outside the box for the CDS, I guess, today. We have with us Amanda Paciorkowski. She is the University Programs Developer at SAE. How you doing, Amanda?
Great. How are you?
I understand you guys have some new stuff going on over there that's kind of expanding beyond what we've known in these programs with CDS, Collegiate Design Series, for so long.
Yeah, so CDS has a very long-standing history, going back decades of producing really strong hands-on engineering experiences for students coming through engineering school and even expanding into other majors a little bit. But with the ever-changing technology out there, we've really started to figure out ways that we can incorporate the emerging technologies that are kind of driving the engineering world right now. So we are quietly working on launching a new competition that's going to be part of a new series that will be more of a sister series to the Collegiate Design Series called the Emerging Technology Series. And the focus for the Emerging Technology Series will be more technology specific and more concept design, less builds. That's not to say we won't ever have those, but certainly we have such a strong product line already with Formula, Baja, AutoDrive in the build space that we are having sponsors come to us and ask for our help trying to recruit software developers, embedded systems engineers, all these kind of emerging fields that our teams are doing them in Formula and Baja, but we're not focusing on them there. So it's not really the purpose of those programs. So we've actually just launched the AeroConnect Challenge that is going to be taking place for the first time this spring as part of the SAE AeroTech Conference in Pasadena, California. And AeroConnect was our attempt at really finding the right blend of driving that engineering education, having students show what they can do, and tackling a real world problem. So the mission for AeroConnect will change every year. This year, the conference, as I mentioned, is in Pasadena, California. So the mission for 2020 is going to be focused heavily on acquiring data and helping officials on the ground be able to make real-time decisions about wildfires, the spread of wildfires, collecting data on them, being able to drive that strong decision-making. Those products don't necessarily exist out there. And this mission came directly from engineers who are working in that region on these types of projects. So that's a really cool change of pace from the traditional Collegiate Design Series programs, which are really about finding ways to develop and build something. So for AeroConnect, we are asking teams to come in and solve this real world problem using some kind of connected aircraft solution. So some kind of UAV system. We've really left the parameters very open. There are listed in the 2020 mission. There are very specific design requirements, but ultimately the design and the implementation is very much being left up to the students. This was our driving force behind this concept. So with a Formula or a Baja, you're so focused on making sure you have safe vehicles on track. With a concept design competition, that goes away, and the freedom to design purely to solve the problem in a way that's actually replicable or safe, but ultimately we don't have to focus, and students don't have to focus on making sure the wires are exactly right when they actually build it, right? And design is one thing, but when you're actually getting down and scrambling to get your project built at the last minute, it makes it a lot easier if you're not focusing on that right away. In an industry application, this would be perhaps a request for proposal that was sent out by California Forestry Department or something like that, some group like that. And our teams are going to build to their specifications and show them why their solution is the best. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish here at AeroConnect is we're looking for engineers who are interested in going beyond kind of the very traditional mechanical engineering space. So that's what our sponsors are looking for. That's what industry is going towards. It's what our academic contexts are looking for. So now we need some students to show up and prove to the aerospace industry that they have a place within the university programs here at SAE as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that mission for a minute, a little bit more. This is a very real problem in California right now. We hear all the time about the forest fires out there for, any of us that are not in the area having to deal with them more directly, unfortunately. And this is something that it's been growing over the last several years, and people are actively looking for new solutions. So it's kind of a reach out for new ideas.
Yeah, this issue is on the news every single day. There's headlines everywhere. And we obviously picked this mission quite a while back, but as registration has been open, California has been dealing with some pretty devastating wildfires this year. And this is really our team's opportunity to get something unique that doesn't exist out there in industry in front of officials from the divisions and departments that are currently trying to work on those solutions. We are expecting companies like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and Boeing to be walking through our students' booths and asking them questions about how their solution actually helps solve a humanitarian crisis. And that is really something that's unique to this particular competition. We're really proud of how that has filtered out. Next year, the AeroTech conference is actually in Florida. So the mission will change again next year to something that is specific to that region, hopefully. And so this is not something that will be consistently, it won't be wildfires every year, but it will always be focused on solving some humanitarian need.
So this competition sounds like it's got a great mission, but what aspects are we kind of looking at here? What are kind of the goals, the bullet points of this thing?
So ultimately, this challenge is asking teams to build some kind of connected aircraft that can participate in the wildfire fighting mission. And the pieces that we're specifically looking for are fire detection, imaging, tracking, the fire suppression, aircraft routing. So once a system is identified, how does the system generate optimal routes for fire suppression aircraft to get in and out of the fire zone, that sort of thing. So ultimately, it's really about collecting that data. When we started talking about this, we kept calling them drones. And you think about, when you say drone, you think about the drone that you can just go and grab, kind of the hobbyist drone. And that flying over an area that has some pretty significant heat is obviously not going to work out very well. So the last piece that we're really focusing on with these designs are kind of, how do you maintain communication in that kind of volatile environment? So figuring out how to have persistent communications is really critical to the firefighting mission. It's a pretty expensive piece of equipment to lose simply because you lost communication. So lots of system failure analysis and that sort of thing that is going to be driving these kinds of designs. Like I mentioned earlier, being able to defend that design in front of these industry professionals who know there's no solution out there that they can just grab off the shelf. So our teams really have the ability on this challenge to build something that is so special, is so specialized that it doesn't exist right now. If I know anything about engineering students, it's that they love to be the one to be the first to come up with something really unique.
So let's talk about kind of the environment that this is going to be happening in. Typically, we're used to CDS events where These are happening, and there are industry people that are there as volunteers or sometimes running the event or in tech inspection. This is really, as a part of this, kind of as a bonus of this being part of this competition, like you get to go to the conference and really kind of just embed around the entire industry.
Yeah, so this is our first embedded competition in recent history that is going to be taking place as part of one of SAE's larger industry conferences. So this one happens to be Aerotech, the aerospace industry's premier conference for SAE. Many of our teams are familiar with WCX, which is the automotive version of this up in Detroit. And we think that this is a concept that we really haven't, we believe this is a concept that can really gain traction, bringing our teams into the industry space. Like you said, we have industry coming to us when we're out on the track or up in the mountains or at the flying field. But this, we're really sending our teams into the industry space. They're going to be side by side with the Boeings, the Lockheeds. They're going to be talking to those executives. We have a really cool part of this competition that we've not done before, and it is this idea that so teams are going to be building these booths, and their booth purpose is to communicate their design and why their design is solving the problem the best. However, we are going to be judging that in a little bit of a secret shopper type way. So we're going to have industry professionals walking around in, I don't know, normal clothes. They're not going to know they're a judge. They're not going to be carrying a clipboard. They're not going to be asking them these really canned questions. They're going to be talking to them about how they chose the system that they chose, how they decided which components to use and why to develop the software a particular way or whatever it may be. But ultimately, those are our judges. So they're not going to be able to tell whether it was that Boeing executive that just came to talk to you was a judge or not. So it's a really cool removal of kind of that very innate competition part of a formula or a Baja, and really focusing on the design in a way that industry's really excited about. So there will be a preliminary design presentation where teams are communicating the technical details of their design to industry professionals. That's not going away. It's very important to why CDS has been so successful. But there's also this level of, okay, you have this really complex design. How do we communicate that to the masses? You may be talking to a Boeing executive, or you may be talking to an HR representative from a smaller supplier company. How do you position yourself to be the person that they want to hire? And that's really a cool aspect of this, is the amount of recruiting that happens at these conferences is so high. And at a traditional competition, students are very focused on getting to their design evaluation or making sure that they're in line for lunch at the right time or whatever that may be. They're, back to back to back to back to back of all these tasks that they have to complete. Going and getting your resume in front of Honda is kind of in the back of their mind. We're bringing the industry to them on this one. They're going to be immersed in that. If they want to, as part of a team registration for AeroConnect, teams are able to just go and walk the show floor at AeroTech. That's something that doesn't happen at a traditional competition. Yeah, there's sponsor booths and they want to talk to you, and they're certainly looking to hire you, but you're not able to hear kind of these high level presentations and panels that, they're not focused on the education piece. They're not focused on hiring necessarily. They're talking about real industry topics that are relevant and important. And you may just have that presenter talking to you at your booth in a few hours. So, yeah, it's a really nice tie-in of all the things that SAE and particularly us down in the CDS wing are all about, which is connecting industry and academia and finding really meaningful ways for students to be able to gain experience by actually doing something.
Sounds like a lot of opportunity, a lot of exciting opportunity with this project, this competition. So how do people get involved?
Yeah, so we have our rule set currently published at SAE AeroConnectChallenge.com. It's set up just like your CDS website that you already go to, whether it's Baja or Formula or whatever. And so you'll recognize the series resources right away. Within series resources, there is the 2020 rule set. First, that's certainly the first step to understanding what's being asked of teams in this challenge. If you decide that this makes sense for you, all you have to do, go back to SAE.org and register. We're really excited to announce that through the very generous support of the SAE Foundation, we've got some funding to cover the registration fees for the first 10 teams that register, which is really awesome. That is something that you don't see very often. And like I said earlier, that registration fee covers your access into the Aerotech conference for 10 students, as well as your registration fee for the actual competition. So please take advantage of that offer. In addition, because it's the first year for this competition, we're offering a $1,000 travel stipend to every team who registers before registration ends. So that's December 16th in this case. So you have a few weeks to get your team on the list. Very easy to register, very similar process to your already existing CDS competitions. So you just got to get in, log in, hit the register now button. And because we have waived the registration fees for the first 10 teams, there's no payment required. There's no credit card information that's required. Very easy. And then as always, because this is part of the university programs ecosystem at SAE, the A World in Motion program is offering their Learn Twice incentive as well, which this year changed to $3,000 per team if you want to get into a local classroom and volunteer for a set number of hours. So there's ultimately $5,500 on the table right away. Through the SAE Foundation, we also have a pretty lucrative awards slate on this competition. So there's $15,000 up for grabs in awards for this competition. Teams can really recoup a lot of their investment simply by participating this year. So even if you're not an aerospace engineer and this competition isn't necessarily for you or your team, you're already focusing on your current project, we would be really grateful if you pass this on to your friends that may be more interested in the embedded systems world or the software engineering world or the aerospace world. We have so many jobs in this area that we're looking to fill with our sponsors that if they bring their A game, their chances are pretty good for landing a pretty sweet gig as their first job out of college.
And again, if anybody wants to find more information or sign up, that is at SAE AeroConnect Challenge.com. And of course, that'll be linked in the show notes here of this very podcast. Amanda, thank you so much for coming in and telling us about this awesome new competition.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you in Pasadena.
Thank you for listening to Level 4, the SAE Auto Drive Challenge podcast. Make sure you download our app on your smartphone for updates and contact information. The show notes for this episode and all others can be found at autodrive.fireside.fm.